Food has always been at least a little bit dangerous. For most of human history, we didn't understand the relationship between germs and illness, and so the possibility of food making people sick has been more or less constant. But now we have a good understanding of the pathogenic risks associated with food and how to limit them. At least in the developed world, most of the food system is set up with these in mind, and it mostly does a good job of prevention. It's true that the consolidation of the food system means that when outbreaks do happen, they can be more widespread. But for the most part, food is as safe as it has ever been. As a result, the sort of acute fear of illness has declined, which is reasonable. But it's been replaced by vaguer fears that are more difficult to assess. So maybe we're not as worried about germs as we used to be, but we're still scared of contamination, just by heavy metals and pesticides and unknown chemicals. We're much more worried than ever before about the long-term health effect of eating various foods. We're worried about the environmental and ethical ramifications of the way our food is produced. Farmers like me discuss these fears for obvious reasons. I strive for transparency because there's so much opacity in the mainstream food system. A lot of the things I do, like how I manage my land, how I treat my animals, even how I talk to my customers, I arrive at basically by looking at the mainstream food system and then trying to do the exact opposite. So of course I highlight the differences. And it's completely natural to be mistrustful or even fearful of a mostly hidden system that is so disinterested in anything other than maximizing production. But I still try to guard against leaning on this fact as a sales tactic. By amplifying the fears that are in the air, it's easy to build a narrative of me against them, in which I'm saying, you can only eat the perfect food that I provide because everything else is terrifying. There are a lot of brands, not even mostly farms or mostly food, that are saying this more or less. They say everything is scary, but our stuff is the purest in the world, so you should only trust us. Even though this clearly works, it strikes me as corrosive. Of course it's fine to point out the problems with the bigger food system. I do it all the time. But building a real, vibrant alternative must rely on more than stoking fear. Playing to instinctive fears might move product, but it's a diminishment of what food can be. I truly believe that food should be mostly about joy, not fear. I cannot think of a more universally human act than sharing a meal. We're all going to eat, most of us do it every day, but there are few areas that have such broad latitude. With the same ingredients, we can prepare a souffle or make scrambled eggs. We can eat 12 gas station hot dogs for dinner, or we can spend hours grilling or barbecuing with friends. We can attempt to simply fuel our bodies to get through a day, or we can use a meal as a time to appreciate a simple but profound pleasure. Most of us do one or the other depending on how much of a hurry we're in, but I think we should at least try to enjoy food. It can also connect us to places. I love it when people come and visit the farm, meet me and my family, and learn about how things work here. There's a particular peace and beauty to a landscape that includes well-managed working farms, and there's a richness in seeing hundreds of intricate life cycles progressing like I get to do in my little corner of New York. I want people to support farms like mine because they want to support joy and beauty, not because they are afraid. I actually think this attitude is more broadly applicable. It's good to recognize problems, and it's even better to address them to the extent that our circumstances allow us to. But we should approach problems, even scary ones, as tasks to be dealt with, not as fears to rule us. I'll speak for myself here since it's a little bit strange to prescribe universal approaches to life. I find it better for me and for the people in my life if I focus on making the things I can control better instead of dwelling on terrifying things I can't control. This is really, really hard to do. To the extent that we have a national discourse, it's overwhelmingly focused on large or at least distant problems that have little direct connection to my daily life. Of course, it's important to address these big, sort of global issues to the extent that I can, but it's just as important, maybe even more important, to cultivate deep connections with the individual people that I know and get to meet in my community and through my work. As a general rule, living and acting out of fear is no way to live at all. I think that's true about food and just about everything else. I'm Garth from Carencrest Farm. Thank you for watching.